What happens, I think, with people is they begin to, when they think about a creation, they right away think of a God, usually a God man, because they typically say he. It's always him, this, and he's capable, and he's going to bless me, and he. More of a masculine type of a driven type of a mindset for creation. But I really think that the energy that creates this entire universe is more on the feminine side, a feminine energy, the Sophia energies that actually emanate from the womb, which we're going to show you as well in a little bit. But I want you to get a good understanding of fractals, so we're going to continue a little bit on fractals. Here's me again at the Field Museum, and here's a fractal. Has anybody here ever heard of Donnie Arcade? A few people heard of Donnie Arcade, okay. I own a record label named Pantheon Elite Records, and I have a conscious rapper. And this is a song he did to this fractal pattern that we have here. Just check out this fractal pattern. Watch how deep it goes. This was a simple 1-minute pattern.
Remember, no one is big enough.
Apollo. In the darkness, I gave light to them. Healed their wicked hearts. Rays go right through them. Can't blame them. Their frequency influence made by entities who want to see cities in ruins. You can feel it like Phil Collins there in the night. So much tension, katana blades give it a slice. The wind's cold, it's humbling, I'm living my life. But they don't know I got the power of 10 poltergeists. While you're defenseless, 11-11 sequences. Keep me all on track like GPS's. More blessings, yeah, more blessings. Yes, this the essence. Yes, you feel the presence. Superior intelligence. Lying on my melanin. When they know it's heaven sent. Preaching about where they never went. Dimensions they ain't never been. Who you think you are? Looking down upon. I swear to God, you the furthest from God. Lower vibrations. Further from where we are. I'm feeling like I'm in Mount Olympus with thunder roars. Zeus.
That was a lot of data stored in a 1-minute fractal pattern video. If that was on a conventional type of a data storage, we probably would have needed enough hard drives to fill up this entire stage. So you see with fractals, you can get a complex amount of information and data and a complex amount of, in our case, biological life forms, planets, stars, galaxies, and solar systems, all out of one very small, very simple fractal geometric equation. So this is why fractals are very important. And when you truly understand it, and shift your mind from thinking a magic guy in the sky with a magic wand is like making planets. If you shift your mind out of that, it doesn't take away from the fact that this entire realm is spiritual, because the actual consciousness is a spiritual energy that's filled up this entire third dimension. And that's what we access and we tap into. But what I'm trying to tell you is that behind the scenes, up above these dimensions, there potentially is a creator or creators of this realm that used this mathematical pattern that we have simply only rediscovered. Let's hear a little bit from Nassim Haramein. Just a couple of minutes here, and Bruce Lipton as well.
The structure of nature is designed on the basis of what is called fractal geometry. And fractal geometry is unique geometry, not the one we learn in school. The geometry we did learn in school, called Euclidean geometry, you can't model nature with it. All those triangles, cones, cubes, and spheres are not what nature really looks like. But when we were 5 years old, in kindergarten, we made a tree. We made a Euclidean tree. We had like a cylinder for the trunk and a ball for the top. But obviously that's not nature-like. That geometry is not the nature geometry. We now recognize this new geometry that really came into our world in 1983 with the work of Benoit Mandelbrot from IBM, called fractal geometry. And it's a different version of geometry, and it's very exciting. But here's the fundamental key characteristic of this geometry. Built into the nature of the mathematics is a reality that images of the structure repeat themselves in a very self-similar fashion at any level of the organization that you're talking about. So if you want to talk about cells or people or civilizations, they're all built on the same geometry. But the key word for most people to understand is that this geometry links an ancient mystical understanding. There was a phrase that people are familiar with, as above, so below. Well, in this new geometry, that becomes mathematical and scientific as a reality.
Every atom is a mini black hole, that it has infinite density, that it has infinite potential, that everything has singularity at its center. The vacuum energy, the structure of the vacuum itself interlinks or entangles all protons, the proton being the nuclei of an atom, that all the nuclei of atoms are entangled because of the structure of the vacuum, that the structure, that the vacuum is not a passive vacuum but an active vacuum that has a role to play in the creation of our material world, but as well is the structure that connects all things. So actually this is a mathematical rendering of the concept everything is one, so that it actually is mathematically proven.
That's why I can study the nature of a cell and understand the nature of a human, because a human is a fractal image of a cell. We're made out of cells. We're just a large version of a cell. And so that a human body turns out not to be a one thing as we see it in the mirror, but when we really understand, if you could see it with microscopic eyes so you could see what it looked like, you recognize that a human body is a community of upwards to 50 trillion cells. Every cell is essentially a miniature human, because virtually every cell has every function that I have in my body. It's already present. As a matter of fact, any function that I do with my body is only because a cell can do that function, because I'm made out of cells.
Oh, I think that the world of physics and the world in general is transforming, and that there's an opening that's occurring, and certainly in physics, you know, there's a level of arrogance that's slowly fading away. You know, not so long ago, when I started in bringing my work to the physics community, some 15 to 20 years ago, the tendency was to think we've got the universe pretty well all figured, and all we need is a few little things to work out, and then we have it. And so there was a lot of you know, arrogance in the way, you know, physicists were interacting with new ideas and so on. And so it was extremely difficult to be heard. But since then, a lot of failures in our theories have come forward, a lot of experiments in laboratory, and, you know, data from cosmological instruments and so on have shown us that there's anomalies that we cannot explain with the standard model, and all sorts of things are coming up. And so, you know, a certain level of failure of string theory and so on. And I think that it's changed the world of physics.
The same responses of cells to their world are exact.
I want to pause right here for a minute, because they're kind of going to go a little redundant, and I want to move on a little bit because we got a late start.
Geometry, the structure of nature is designed on.
One of the important things that Nassim Haramein said was that the protons are entangled. Have anybody here heard of quantum entanglement before? Okay. Quantum entanglement is very important. It's a very powerful thing. It links us to the spiritual world. The reason why prayers work, if you know how to pray, and that's a very important thing I talk about a lot of my at a lot of my seminars, you have to know how to pray, because there's two different ways to pray. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about it here as well.